Hi guys, I'm your English teacher Kay with ISpeakSpokeSpoken.com, and today I'm going to show you the top 10 mistakes in American English and how to avoid them. Don't forget, you can click here to download the slides and take a quiz at the end. So let's look at the top 10 mistakes. First off, we have misusing your and your. This is confusing because they sound the same, but it's really important to understand the difference in your reading and writing. So, your is the possessive adjective. It shows that you possess something or you have something, whereas your is a contraction for you are. So, a common mistake would be you're coming to the party with the possessive adjective. This doesn't make sense. The correct use is you're, as in you are coming to the party. The second most common mistake is mixing up there, and there. I know this is confusing because they all sound the same, but it's really important when you're studying English to understand the difference, especially in your reading and writing. So there refers to a place, there shows possession, and there is the contraction for they are. The incorrect use of there is a book on the table or there is a book on the table, we can fix this by using there is a book on the table, again, to show the location. This is not about possession and this is not about they are. This is there is a book on the place, there's a location. Now the third most common mistake is the incorrect use of it's and its. Again, this is confusing because they sound the same, but it's really important to know the difference in your reading and writing. It's with no apostrophe is the possessive adjective, whereas its is the contraction of it has or it is. This might be a bit confusing if you remember learning in the past that apostrophe S shows possession when we're talking about a person, Sally's book, Michael's book, for example. But here, it's with no apostrophe is possessive, whereas it's with the apostrophe is the contraction of it has or it is. So this is incorrect. Its tail is long. That's wrong because it is tail is long. That doesn't make sense. The correct use is its tail is long. Remember here, it's with no apostrophe is possessive. And the fourth most common mistake in English is misplacing modifiers. I hear this so often when I'm working with students learning English, and it's something that I really want you to focus on. So, for example, she almost drove her kids to school every day. Almost means that something isn't complete. So she almost drove her kids to school every day means that she didn't complete driving her kids to school every day. But that has a different meaning than what we're trying to say. The correct place of the modifier would be she drove her kids to school almost every day. That means 90% of the time she drove her kids to school and maybe 10% of the time she didn't drive her kids to school. So make sure you're paying attention on where you're placing your modifier to use the meaning that you're really going for. And let's take a look at pronunciation. Tail, tail. Long, long. Good. And school, school. Very good. And almost has stress on the first syllable. Almost, almost. Very good. The next common mistake is overusing commas. When you put commas where they don't need to go, it causes confusion and leads to a fragmented sentence. So let's look at this incorrect use here. The weather was warm and sunny. It's adding pauses in the sentence where they don't belong. This sentence doesn't need any commas. The weather was warm and sunny. When you're separating two things with and, a comma isn't necessary. So make sure that you're not confusing your sentences by throwing in extra commas and breaking up the sentences. Now the next most common mistake is confusing less and fewer. We use less for uncountable nouns and we use fewer for countable nouns. For example, people, we can count people. One person, two people, three people, for example. But water, we can't count water. We can't say 1 water, 2 water. In this case, we would need to use a unit of measure. For example, we can count the glasses of water, 1 glass of water, 2 glasses of water. But if we're talking about water in a general sense as an uncountable noun, you would say more water or less water. Now let's look at people as an example. Less people attended the concert. That's an incorrect use. We can count people, so we cannot use less. We would say fewer people attended the concert because, again, we can count. It's a countable noun. So keep in mind, less is for uncountable nouns like water, and fewer is for countable nouns like people. And don't forget, you can click here on the I to download these slides and take a quiz, and you can leave any comments or questions down below. The next most common mistake is incorrect verb tense usage. It's really important when you're studying English to use the correct verb tense in a context that requires a specific time frame. And this is especially true for irregular verbs. So you can review your irregular verbs to make sure that you're not making these mistakes. In this incorrect example, I seen him yesterday. Here we have our specific time frame, but we don't use the past participle. The correct sentence is, I saw him yesterday. We have our simple past, which we use here, with our specific time frame. The next most common mistake is splitting infinitives. So by placing an adverb between to and the verb, sometimes people consider this to be incorrect. For example, to quickly finish is her goal. This sounds a bit strange in English and it doesn't quite make sense. The correct use would be to finish quickly is her goal, using the verb first. And let's double check our pronunciation. Saw, saw. Goal, goal. And the number 9 top mistake is confusing affect and effect. These pronunciations will sound the same, but it's really important to understand the difference in your reading and writing. So affect is a verb, which means to influence, whereas effect is a noun. It means it's the result of something. So, for example, the incorrect sentence would be, the effect of the movie was profound. Remember, affect is a verb, so it's incorrect in this sentence. The correct use of affect would be, the movie affected me profoundly. The verb, it influenced me profoundly. Now, if we want to use this word in the sentence, we certainly can, but we have to make sure that we're using it correctly. We can say, the effect of the movie was profound. That would be correct because here it's a noun. And last but not least, the 10th most common mistake is misusing me, myself, and I. In this example, you'll probably hear the incorrect usage often from native speakers, but I really want you to remember. I don't ask you to memorize things so often, but in this case, please do. The correct use is between you and me. Native speakers might tell you that sounds a little funny or that sounds wrong, but it's correct because here we have the preposition, and normally we use me when there's a preposition in the sentence. Now, when you're using myself, we normally use myself in a sentence that also has the word I. For example, I gave myself a manicure. We already have I in the sentence, and so we can use myself because it's something that you do to yourself. Now let's take a look at pronunciation. Effect has emphasis on the second syllable. Effect, effect. Good. And here, again, with 3 syllables for past tense, affected, affected. Good. And here we have confidential with emphasis on the 3rd syllable. Confidential, confidential. Very good. And don't forget, you can click here to download the slides and take a quiz to make sure that you will avoid making these mistakes in English. And you can leave a comment or question down below. It's been great teaching you. Once again, I'm Kay with ISpeakSpokeSpoken.com, and I'll see you next time. Bye.